Slap on your silly hats because Thunder Junction has just had a major leak, and some of the cards we're going to look at today are downright criminal.
Magic. I am a wizard. History. I'm an old wizard. The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. My friends, I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for a very fun installment of Mega Magic News Super Thunder Junction Mega League Edition. And I'm going to let you in on something. Thunder Junction looks better than I thought it was going to be. And it has crazy things like criminal lands and the resurgence of mercenaries. So let's dive in and see everything this set has to show us for now. All right, my friends, we're starting right out the gates with some absolute silliness in the form of Drover Grizzly. I have always loved grizzly bears from the original days of Magic, and the idea of using one as a mount is surprisingly appealing to me. So I actually really like the concept of this card, but when we get into the mechanics of it, it does move into the absurdity. So 1 green and 2 gets you a 4/2 bear mount. Whenever Drover Grizzly attacks while saddled, creatures you control get trample until end of turn. Saddle's a brand new ability. Saddle 1. Tap any number of other creatures you control with a total power of 1 or more. This mount becomes saddled until end of turn. Saddle only as a sorcery. So it's almost like a crew variant, but you're crewing using creatures on creatures. And where it gets weird is the fact that when this thing is saddled, all your creatures get trample. I mean, I'd get it if one creature got trampled because he's riding the grizzly bear trampling over it, but does everybody climb on the saddle? It's craziness, and the artwork is epic, bro. You've got this bear sitting on the top of the cliff going "Roar!" with the saddle on his back, the waterfall there. I love the terrain of this set, actually. It looks pretty nice overall. Let's move on to the next card, which is the Rooftop Assassin. 1 green and 3 for a 2/2 vampire assassin with flash, flying, and lifelink. When Rooftop Assassin enters the battlefield, destroy target creature and opponent controls that was dealt damage this turn. Sneaking behind people, pedestrian, says the flavor text, and it looks like you've got somebody leaping between 2 buildings in the artwork. This leak is a little bit unclear with a little bit of blurriness, so I don't 100% know if that's what's going on, but it looks like a dude leaping in the moonlight. And according to another card we're going to look at, apparently a lot of denizens of Thunder Junction don't really spend any time looking up at the skies. Moving on, we've got Stop Cold. 1 blue and 3 enchantment aura. Flash, enchant artifact or creature. When it enters the battlefield, tap enchanted permanent. Enchanted permanent loses all abilities and doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. This is an interesting variation on all the different blue spells we've seen over the years where it freezes a creature, shuts it down, it can't attack anymore, but that's about it, right? It's not, you can't use it as a blocker or attacker, but it doesn't shut off all of its abilities. Now, at 4 mana, this is clearly just draft level garbage. Nobody's going to be using this in Constructed, but I do like the fact that the freezing magic concept has been expanded to also extend to people's abilities on top of the actual just being able to attack and defend. That is a fun concept. The artwork shows something getting frozen, it looks like, but I have no idea what. So if you can make it out, let me know. After that, we've got Wanted Griffin. This brings in another interesting mechanic that the set has that I actually quite like. 1 white and 3 for a 3/2 flyer. When it dies, create a 1/1 red mercenary creature token with target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Flavor text says, many a would-be captor has gotten close enough to count its feathers, only to be left behind with nothing but regret and a dangling rope. So this is the idea of, yo, if we catch this griffin, we're going to be rich, boys. And you can see in the background, you have your little cowboy mercenary. This is a mechanic that we're going to see on a number of different cards, bringing mercenaries back, which were a creature type that we saw back in the Lin Civi prophecy era, right? So it's like, okay, the rebel and mercenary concept, it makes perfect sense for these cowboy rapscallions to be mercenaries. So you've got a 1/1 red creature creature mercenary whose ability is tap him to give another creature +1/+0 until end of turn. And that's basically like you're hiring this guy to be part of your crew. So that actually has some nice flavor. I will admit that I thought Thunder Junction was going to be a little more disparate than it is. But from what I've seen, it's actually tying together pretty well from a flavor perspective. And I'm more hopeful than I used to be. Moving on, because we got a lot of cards to talk about. We got Rodeo Pyromancers. 1 red and 3 for a 3/4 human mercenary. Whenever you cast your first spell each turn, add 2 red. That's a nice ability, but on a 4 cast 3/4, it's pretty underwhelming, right? My citizens throw good money at them. And for what? Cheap tricks and collateral damage. Damnable slick shot charlatans. And that's Baron Bertram Greywater. No idea who that character is. I assume we're probably going to see him on a card since we do get tons of legendaries, and that would add some extra flavor. But look at the artwork. You just have a couple of pyromancers going to town with flaming lassos. And that actually, I never really thought about that. I never thought about the lasso aspect of it. But making them out of fire, bro, I can see how that would totally get a lot of attention from people. Like, bro, do you see the skills they have? But then people who have, like, I'm in charge of the city. Nice show, but you're setting everything on fire, you goons. I do like the flavor. After that, we've got, holy cow, that's it, man. I laughed pretty hard when I saw the name of the card, not gonna lie. 1 blue and 2. It is a 2/2 flash flyer. I know we only get to see part of the card, but all the information's there. So, 2/2 flash flyer. When Holy Cow enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life and you scry once. And it says something, as it passed by, the rancher swore she saw hope in something. I can't see the whole thing, but I just love the idea of this holy flying cow because it's an ox angel. And if you guys don't know this, and we'll cover it a little later on, they actually have like Halo and stuff like this in the world. And I wondered if they were importing it from Capenna or if they had their own angelic sources. And I'm wondering if they're making bootleg moonshine style Halo using angelic oxes. And that is frankly a fascinating concept. Moving on, we've got the Canyon Crab. 1 blue and 1 for a 0/5 crab. 1 blue and 1 to activate its ability to give it +2, -2 until end of turn, so you can swap it all the way around over to a 4/1 if you're feeling like it. At the beginning of your end step, if you haven't cast a spell from your hand this turn, draw a card, then discard a card. This is a control player's dream. It's like, wait a minute, so I can put this down as a blocker that can just sit there, they can't get by, and if I don't cast a spell on my turn, I get to smooth out my hand by drawing and discarding, so I'm ready to counter stuff on their turn. This has control written all over it. I also enjoy the flavor. The crab looks pretty big and beefy, so you understand why he can become 4/1, right? It sits at 0/5. Look at the flavor text. It says, they cluster near shallow river crossings, blending into the rocks, waiting for unsuspecting travelers to step within range of their claws. So there's 0/5s just like the rocks, and then all of a sudden, skedadow, your dinner time. I like it. I like it. Moving on. Neutralize the guards. 1 black and 2 for an instant that says, creatures target opponent controls get -1/-1 until end of turn, and you surveil 2. So you get to look at the top 2 cards of your library, put any number of them into your graveyard, rest on top of your library, and the flavor text says, don't bother getting up, I'll see myself in. And this is one of those classic, I've come to rob the train or the bank vault style scenarios, but being done with magic. And that's actually a pretty brutal way. I'm just going to use poisonous magic to get you out of the way. And I do like the fact that these 3 people who are being subsumed in this cloud of poisonous smoke, you've just got the guy in front with his little cowboy hat down like this. He's just kind of waiting a moment, you know, unless of course he's actually somebody who's getting taken down by the poisonous vapors as well, and I'm just misreading it. But I like it as the concept of him over in the corner, just kind of watching them, saying this to them as they choke on the miasma that won't affect him because he's the one who summoned it up, right? That is some cool flavor. After that, we've got Irascible Wolverine. 1 red and 2 for a 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, exile the top card of your library. Until end of turn, you may play that card. Pretty standardized red ability, right? And it looks like it's knocked over like a stagecoach. It's part of its own robbery. It's got the ability Plot, which is a new ability to magic. Pay 1 red and 2, and exile this card from your hand. Cast it on a sorcery as a later turn without paying its mana cost. Plot only as a sorcery. So Plot is a variation almost of Foretell. We had Foretell from the Kaldheim era, where you would put cards face down and get to play them on a future turn, right? This time, you can actually just put the creature straight out, and you don't pay it for reduced cost later. You pay its full casting cost ahead of time, and then cast it as a sorcery later. So it is weaker than Foretell in a couple of different ways, right? First of all is the fact that like you have to pay the full cost. You can't just foretell it for 2 because all foretelling can be done cheaply off to the side, and cards have reduced foretelling costs. And then you also have the fact that the spell can only be played at sorcery speed, whereas foretell would allow you to cast the spells at whatever speed they normally went at. But either way, plot can definitely be an interesting ability. It's not that exciting on the Wolverine, but it is another way to have more cards in your hand, essentially, that can't be messed with by discard. Next up, we've got Lava Spur Boots. These boots weren't made for walking. One colorless, equipped creature gets +1/+0 and has haste and ward 1. Equip 1. The flavor text says, these boots were made for far more than... Oh, never mind. I made a boots were made for walking comment, not realizing the flavor text is going to make me contradict myself. These boots were made for walking, and far more than walking. They do look pretty intense, and I love the idea of magical boots infused with the essence of lava that not only speed you up and give you energy, but create a magical energy field around you that will dispel, like, not really dispel magic, it could if it's weak, but will ultimately make magic have a harder time reaching you. It costs more power to take you down. Not too shabby, but also doesn't give full on like shroud or something like that, so the creature can't be interacted with. Not a bad piece of equipment, all right? Then we've got Bristleback Sentry. This one's weird because it feels very random. 1 green and 1 for a 3/3 defender. As long as you control a creature with power 4 or greater, it can attack as though it didn't have defender. We've seen pretty much this exact card in a number of different sets. There was a dinosaur that was literally word for word this card, same ability and everything. Flavor text says, as she defends them in their youth, they shall someday defend her in her old age. So this to me is like, okay, you've got like some crazy plant wolf that lives in the world, so it adds to the flavor of the world, but it doesn't really feel super Thunder Junction-y, so this could go into any set. But that being said, it doesn't detract from the overall flavor of Thunder Junction. Then we've got this land. This is a criminal land, and this is gorgeous. I love this. Creosote Heath, okay? So this is a land desert, the blooming desert concept. Here we are. We're going to have a bunch of deserts. So it enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to target opponent, and it taps to add a green or white. I like this on a whole bunch of different levels. I like the fact that it is essentially symmetrical with all of the lands that we've seen recently where you put the land out and you gain a life. This is the opposite, where it's like, no, this is a desert. This isn't about gaining life. People die out in the desert. So that's what we're about. We're about doing damage. Boop, boop, boo, yee-haw, right? So that kind of concept is great. Plus, if you didn't click in when I said it's a criminal land, this triggers the criminal requirement in Magic the Gathering. So if you haven't already heard, being a criminal in Magic the Gathering is doing anything that targets any of your opponent's stuff, them, anything at all. So just by playing this land and hitting your opponent for a damage, you are automatically triggering any cards that care about criminal acts for the entirety of that turn, which is great to have built into a land. The flavor text says, the sun sets in Spine Gully. It sounds like a cowboy fern gully. The sunsets in Spine Gully sure make the soul question why we bother with cities. And that's the Pioneer Journal of Big Ralph, and I can actually see why he's saying that. This would be like, this is just a kind of blurry version of the artwork, and it is incredible. The sun setting behind this like crazy looking tree, I just love the vibe of it. And Thunder Junction's flavor overall, this seems to fit it quite well. When I saw this land for real, it really did boost my hopes for the set. I know I said that it was going to be the same kind of mess as Markov Manor, but I no longer believe that to be the case looking at the cards. It looks like effort was put into tying it all together instead of kind of cramming Capenna and Ravnica into something that didn't even feel like Ravnica, right? So I'm glad to see a return to form in flavorful world building. This is a hit for me that's also going to be useful to trigger the abilities of the game, right? Then we've got the special criminal version. These are the alternate art styles that they're doing in every pack, and they're taking spells from previous Magic sets and framing them as crimes. So this is like a newspaper article detailing the crime of Savage Smash. 1 green, 1 red, and 1 for a sorcery. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. It fights target creature you don't control. That's all right. Flavor text says, Rolling Thunder, Angry Armadillo, Assaults Architecture. Gotta love the alliteration. That's fun. And the artwork shows the armadillo smashing through the air, bouncing around, right? So you can see why you'd be able to fight one of your opponent's creatures. This thing's just bam, 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 smashing around. And on a side note, I love green fighty spells. They are something that are dear to my heart. Now let's take a look at the next card. This is Malcolm the Eyes. So this is the rare from the set. 1 red and blue, 2/2 legendary Siren Pirate. He's got flying and haste. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, investigate. Flavor text says, it's funny how rarely folks here think to look up. Remember earlier when I said we had that concept where people are just kind of staring at the ground, not paying attention to people jumping rooftop to rooftop? Well, I am a fan of Malcolm. This actually makes sense to me as a card for him because the last time we saw Malcolm was when he was acting as an investigator in the Lost Caverns of Ixalan situation. And he is a smart and capable individual. I enjoyed him as a character in the story. So having him here investigating what's going on with Thunder Junction, or I have no idea. That's what I presume. I presume he's on the lawman side because we're probably going to have two sides. You're going to have your outlaws like Thunder Junction's Oko, and then on the good guy side, we're going to have Malcolm, and probably Kellen will be with his dad at first, but then he'll swap over later. Be like, you betrayed me, Papa. Something like that, right? Either way, this is sweet. Malcolm doesn't look too out of place with the cowboy gear either because he was already a pirate, and it's not that far a cry to go from being a cowboy to a pirate. You're just a water cowboy, almost. Water cowboys. Okay, all right. So, what's next? Oh, it is a pre-release promo. 1 green, 1 white, and 2, 4/5 Elf Scout. Savala is back. Vigilance. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 1/1 red mercenary creature token with tap. Target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Tap, choose a color, add 1 mana of that color for each different power among creatures you control. This can generate absurd amounts of mana. On top of every time you cast a creature, you get an extra creature that's a mercenary that can just tap to boost. Remember, you don't have to pay a mana to activate these mercenaries' abilities. So you can just have a bunch of them sitting out there and slap them onto one. Like even Selvala here, you attack with her, tap all your mercenaries, add it to her power, and also, it just clicked into my head. The mercenaries and their power changing capabilities can just work on each other to give you extra mana. Wow, okay. There is some real power here. This is solid. So you got to be asking yourself, wait a minute, if we have a pre-release promo, does that mean we have stuff from the pre-release kit? We do, my friends. Feast your eyes on all of this. Starting on the left, we have a reward poster for Oko. He's worth 9 million. What has he been up to? Robbery, fraud, impersonation, animal transfiguration. There's your magic. And Oko actually did that. He did that in the Throne of Eldraine story. He turned King Kenrith into an elk, bro. So it's what he's known for. That's fantastic. I love that. You can obviously see beside that Savala we just looked at, the Thunder Junction die. I expect that we're going to have the 5 different variation options that we normally get. You can see that the inside of the actual kit is printed with more news stories, like there is a mysterious stagecoach attack going on. You've got Villainous Wealth. Oops, that's a card that I did not include in the main video. I didn't notice that that was a magic card, friend. So let's talk about that one real quick. So Villainous Wealth is 1 blue, 1 green, 1 black, and X for a sorcery. Target opponent exiles the top X cards of the library. You may cast any number of spells with mana value X or less from among them without paying their mana costs. Flavor text says, some robber barons get just desserts. Others just deserted. I liked the armadillo one more, admittedly, but still, not too shabby. And look at the artwork, bro. Is that a pile of skeletons around crazy cactuses? That's wild. But beside that, remember how I said that they might be making Halo out of oxes? Look at this. You got TJ Tuttleman's Wonder Elixir. Contains 5% real New Capenna style Halo. And Halo is in quotations, and it says New Capenna style. So I really want there to be holy cow bootleggers who use angelic oxes to make Halo moonshine. I'm here for it. You know what? I've got to admit, they are actively winning me over with this. This It's going to be a lot of fun. The disparate nature of Markov Manor was really disheartening, and this feels like more effort was put in to tie it all together. So, looking at this overall, guys, do you know what this means as well? Seeing this pre-release kit, we only saw the contents of 1 booster pack. That means someone out there who did this leak has 5 more packs, and I fully expect that we will be getting some more leaks soon. But that wraps up all the leaks for today. If you enjoyed all the talking about individual Magic cards, I did a live stream last night where I opened up a number of boosters, including old ones like Time Spiral boosters, and went through the cards individually talking about them. So if you want more magical good times, I'll leave the link to that. It's over on my live stream archive, so you can go and check it out. Thanks for coming by and hanging out with me for some leaky, silly hat action. I will see all of you, my friends, for the next video. Big shout out to my patrons. Here's the link for that live stream.